What's up guys, it's Ono Tech here, and this video is going to be a little bit of an insight and an explanation on bottlenecking. And whether or not you have bottleneck yourself or you're just curious as to what it is, I really hope this video will give you a little bit of insight onto what bottleneck is and how you yourself can solve it. So what exactly is a bottleneck? And I think there are a lot of ways to put it, but I really like the way Linus did it on his video, and I'll put the link in an annotation, and I'll also put it in the description below if you want to check it out. And I quote, "Some restrictive element holding back the performance that could otherwise be achieved, also known as the choke point." Now, with that being said, bottleneck can happen in almost anything, but since this is a tech channel, I'm only going to be really focusing on PCs and specifically gaming PCs. So let's start off with an example. When building a gaming PC, you really do want the best performance possible, and generally the rule of thumb is the better the graphics card, the better the performance. So if that's the case, then putting a top tier graphics card into your system should result in better performance and better gaming speed. So let's say you had an old PC that was built specifically to play games at max settings at max resolution 6 years ago. Well, age has caught up to the system and it's not really what it was 6 years ago, and you decide that the only way to really fix it is to put a top of the line graphics card to reduce choppy and laggy gameplay. Well, of course you see an increase in FPS, but instead of a 50% increase like you really wanted to see, you see a 8 or 10% increase. And this right here is the phenomenon known as bottlenecking. So how exactly does this happen? Well, before I really go over that, I feel like there's a point I should make to make things a bit clearer. In any system, data is constantly being shared and received. And this usually happens among your components through your OS. So if you're a Mac, Linux, or Windows user, information is always going to be shared and received. Back to my point. When you're bottlenecked, sharing and receiving data goes a lot slower among the components. So say you put that top tier graphics card in your system, that graphics card can share and receive data insanely quickly compared to the rest of your components. But the CPU and RAM and assumingly the rest of your system, considering that it was built about 6 years ago, cannot receive that data fast enough and cannot send that data fast enough in a large amounts for the graphics card to interpret and to comprehend. So most of the time the graphics card is really only sitting there receiving little bits amount of data, and that's really why the FPS is lower than you would expect when pairing it up with an older system. So how exactly would you fix this issue? And unfortunately, bottleneck is inevitable. If bottleneck didn't exist at a certain point, then everything would run perfectly and instantly, but as you guys should know, that's not the case. Generally though, for a PC gamer, you want to spend more on your graphics card than the rest of your system, and that's totally fine. Just make sure that the rest of your system, specifically the processor, is up to par and not more than a generation behind, because this could cause some serious bottleneck if you do so. The general rule of thumb is also that you shouldn't spend more than 150 between your CPU and your graphics card, but there are a lot of exceptions to that rule that I don't think I really have time to get into right now. But if you follow the last tip, I feel like you guys should be pretty safe in terms of avoiding bottleneck. Well guys, that was my small explanation on the phenomenon of bottlenecking. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, don't be afraid to leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to give it a like. You can share this video if you feel like it was helpful and you want to help your friends or your family, or subscribe if you like my other videos. And thank you guys for everything, and as always, peace.